Hey guys, this is Brad and Mike from Dallas Geek, and today we are going to talk about a non-review subject matter, finally. So today we wanted to talk about cinematic shared universes, specifically how prevalent they become and whether or not they're actually necessary. Some of the examples that we have immediately to pull from are obviously Marvel's cinematic universe, Warner Brothers DC universe. Universal has their dark universe with the Mummy, and then they have Dracula coming, and
that's all going to depend because the Mummy kind of tanked hard.
Well, we'll see how determined they are. Then you have Legendary Entertainment is going with Godzilla and King Kong to start their monster universe.
I think that one's going to be more successful than...
Yeah, and then of course you have Fox doing the X-Men cinematic universe with the Deadpool part sort of being part of it, sort of not, and so I guess
Fox can't figure out what the hell they're doing with that.
Yeah, and that kind of hits to the heart of the matter here.
And don't forget, they're about to start doing spin-offs for Transformers. And
I'd rather not think about that one, but hey, it's...
Apparently,
sure.
I didn't see The Last Night, thank Christ.
I'm choosing to pretend like they've stopped existing at this point. The first three hurt enough. The fourth one, the bits that I saw were just embarrassing.
Oh, dude, I watched it the other night. It is terrible. It is hard to watch.
Good lord.
I think 2 Girls, 1 Cup is more watchable than that. You okay?
Nope, but okay.
No, it's... And then, in Last Night, they go back into, the early 20th century, and they basically reference because I guess they've been here for... Because they basically showed that, the Autobots have been here for even longer. Bumblebee was fighting with the Allies during World War II.
Jeez.
And then he's going to get his own spin-off, and then they're going to spin off to other movies, and it's
Yeah, and, I mean, that is really where the question starts, is, are these shared cinematic universes even necessary? I mean, honestly, I think that there's some benefit to them, with Marvel being the best example of that. But I don't think everything needs its own cinematic universe. I mean, I'm not saying that...
I would even argue that Legendary is actually doing a really good job of setting theirs up. Because all of those guys would pop up in each other's movies anyway from way back in the day.
Yeah, and I mean...
And they're actually doing a really... You didn't see Kong, did you?
No, but I mean, I am a fan of the original Godzilla, King Kong, black and white movies, and then the old, was it Technicolor or whatever was right before Technicolor, where you had, Godzilla versus Mothra and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Godzilla versus King Kong, and I mean that stuff was amazing.
All those guys,
I loved those movies, and to be able to see a modern update to those, I think that'd be cool because we have in fact had enough technological advancements that we can have more than just that kind of cheesy claymation. We can see a proper monster brawl, but then when you have stuff like the Dark Universe with, the Mummy and Swamp Thing and Dracula, I like that kind of thing. I don't know if it's necessary.
It all depends on storytelling, man. If they're just doing it to make a buck,
which you could argue they are,
and you can tell when they are. If it's some just half-ass thrown together shit story that you're watching and you're like, man, plot hole, 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 plot hole. That you can tell.
Yeah.
But if it's Marvel's done a fantastic job of tying everything together, everything tying into each other. Legendary is off to a really good start. Especially with the tease for how Kong fits into the rest of the universe and everything like that.
Yeah, from what I've heard, that... I mean, you told me about how they made that connection, and that does seem
it's really cool. They're literally we don't really own the Earth, it's all of these guys. And then it kind of teases what's to come, and you're like, oh, damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the big shared monster universe, that part has been something that people have been wanting and like waiting for ever since Cloverfield. Like when Cloverfield came out, and that really got everybody's excitement back up for the big monster flicks. I think that's the first time I heard anybody talk about, man, you know what would be really cool is if we could bring back King Kong and Godzilla now, but do it the way that Cloverfield was done, and really get that that kind of dark feel to the monsters.
But like also intimate.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought back then it was pretty cool, but I didn't think I didn't know if that was really something that they could pull off.
Yeah.
I mean, now obviously it looks like they have a shot if they don't mess it up.
And that's just it. It's, do they have the right people in charge running this? Like Marvel does. It looks like now DC finally does.
Yeah, and I think
Legendary's off to a good start.
Something else that kind of hits at the heart of the matter. Well, two things. You have the DC cinematic universe, and then the godfather of all cinematic universes, Star Wars, and all the stuff that we've been hearing about with that now, of, all the issues that they had during production with Rogue One, the issues that they are having currently during production of the Han Solo movie, and the change of directors and everything else, and then you really have to go and ask, well, what is the better way to do a cinematic universe if you're going to do that? Is it go off of the studio's vision and just stick to that no matter what, directors' ideas be damned, or is it find the directors that understand the specific stories that are going to fit into the cinematic universe, give them the points that need to be covered so that they can fit with the other movies, and then let them run with it.
Well, I think
what's the best way to do that?
Well, Marvel's showing it's the second one. It's get a director that understands the character,
well, I don't know,
pair them with a really good writer, and then just let them do their thing.
Well, I mean, we heard all of the controversy from
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, and even before that,
with
Avengers 2, and Joss Whedon's almost semi-mental breakdown from the amount of studio pressure that was there.
You also got to remember is because they were still answering to what's his name at Disney at the time. Well, Kevin Feige still had to answer to them and everything like that. And now since then, it's basically been like, no, Kevin Feige can basically godfather it however he wants to.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still coming in with the big question of how involved is the studio compared to the director. I mean, Star Wars is showing that there is a lot of studio involvement there. And but now that they are for the Han Solo movie, they bring in a director like Ron freaking Howard. You have to hope that they are changing their minds about how much the studio should be involved compared to the director if they're bringing in somebody of that caliber. But at the same time, history of Disney shows that Disney proper has a specific vision for everything.
So for me, I also question, do we really want to call what Star Wars is doing a shared universe if it's just a bunch of prequel stories about characters that we already know about?
Well, yes, only to the extent that it has been a shared universe between the movies and the books and the comics, even before the original prequels were put out there.
Well, that's true.
That has always been an understanding that every piece of media that was published that was Star Wars contributed to the overarching universe. Now, this is just the next step in that where we just get more visual representations of it.
Okay.
And so it does count, but because it's been around for so long, it's easier to forget that it is still the same thing that we're seeing with Marvel and DC and Legendary, but it's just it's been around long enough that it has its own personality.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like, so for me, it's, like I said, if you get a good director and a good writer and you put them together, let them do their thing. Yeah. We've seen that's what works best.
Yeah.
But now the question is how controlling our studios in allowing those directors to do that. Like, if they give them a general guideline, like, hey, here's your script.
Yeah.
This is what we want to go with. Remember, you're under an umbrella, so you got to do some stuff here and there, but we're going to kind of give you a little bit of free reign. and we'll stop by from time to time, look at dailies, look at what you filmed and everything like that. And then if they sit there and they're like, oh, we really like where this is going or anything like that, then they can go from there. But like, I honestly feel like if you just give them like, hey, this is the general tone that we want this movie to feel like.
Yeah.
By the way, we have plans for these characters later on down the line.
Yeah.
We want you to maybe do something like this with this. Like, from what I understand is, like, Marvel has been pretty hands-on, but, like, also, you gotta remember, like, these are the guys that let Jon Favreau bring in Robert Downey Jr. to play Tony Stark when Robert Downey Jr. was, like, so radioactive that nobody wanted to touch him.
Yeah, and, like, that was one of the best decisions that Marvel ever made. But I mean, you also have to keep in mind,
and that was their first movie as Marvel Studios. Like, if that failed, they were done.
Well, just remember the three most recent examples of studios letting the directors do what they want to do. Of all these options, has been Deadpool, Logan, and Wonder Woman. And two out of those three have questionable existence within the cinematic universe continuity. So,
well, no, I think they've come out and said Deadpool does.
Well, have they though? Because it almost seems like Deadpool is still... It's like a tangent to the main X-Men, but they still haven't ever said that they intend to include him as any part of the regular stuff.
But there's talk of an X-Force movie.
Yeah, but is X-Force going to interact with X-Men? Or is that going to be just like Deadpool and it'll exist, maybe borrow some characters, but never actually directly impact anything about it?
That's true.
So, I mean, when two of the three best examples of directors, good directors doing their thing and the studio staying the hell out of it, don't even necessarily count as part of cinematic universe continuity, you really have to wonder, are the studios getting the message? I mean, yeah, they can see that those were good and profitable movies, but do they understand yet that you can still do that, let them be part of the overall universe, and let it go? They don't have to be directly involved in everything that's part of the universe, and if they want to be hands-off, we'll just not count that. It's just, it's a good movie.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. I guess my counter to that would be is so far everything's going in the right direction for most of them.
Yeah.
Like, the Universal one is the one that really worries me, because...
DC worries me the most, honestly.
I mean,
Universal...
But, like,
I don't think Universal is committed hard enough to be able to say that it's more than just, it would be a cool idea. DC is the one that they've committed so hard and put in so much money.
Universal straight up said that The Mummy was a reboot for and it was going to be an
extended universe. I get that, but since they've only done one contribution to that new universe, I don't know how...
They could just pull the plug.
Oh, easily, yeah. But with DC, we are now, 4 movies into their cinematic universe, and with the 5th one coming soon.
Justice League drops in a couple months.
Yeah, so, I mean, they are already so many millions of dollars in at this point that they can't just say, oops, we messed up.
I will say...
I mean...
They've got...
Universal can, but Warner Brothers with DC, no, that one concerns me because they are past the point of no return.
They've got Jeff Johns in place.
But will Warner Brothers learn from Wonder Woman and just start staying the hell out?
If they want to keep making money, they will. And
I hope.
That's... At the end of the day, that's what it means to them, is making money.
So much of what DC has done, and I mean, we've seen the jokes all over the internet of, it is clear that Warner Brothers doesn't believe that they can catch up to all the legwork that Marvel and Disney has put in, so they're just going to go in for the cash grab because they seem to be under the impression that the superhero thing is just a bubble that is going to pop soon, because there's no way people could be that interested in superheroes for much longer.
But you have, like... Yeah. You have not super well-known characters like Doctor Strange doing 500 and 600 million at the box office, and
I mean, in that's really where
Wonder Woman does an opening of like 120,
and that's really what it comes down to: is this something that we can trust the studios to do correctly, or do we just have to keep supporting them and hope that eventually enough money will be put towards the good movies that the studios will just have to get the idea.
If it's all about making money, then the studios, they should know that they need to put their best product forward.
But they also know that they can slap a certain character and a certain title on a movie.
That's true.
They can put out a piece of shit.
That's true.
And they'll still make enough to at least recoup their costs.
Right,
and that's just a guarantee at this point.
But what does that do for them in the long run?
Long run, nothing. But that's the problem. Other than Disney, most of the other studios don't seem to be paying close enough attention to the long run that it is registering that they care. No,
I would say Legendary is.
Legendary
is setting the groundwork.
But we've only seen 2 contributions to that so far, so it's not as obvious.
But they've both been really good, and they've also been so different both tonally and stylistically.
Okay.
Like, Godzilla was basically like a pseudo-horror movie in that, like, you had to wait until the last 30 minutes to actually see him in full on-screen doing it.
Yeah, Kong shows up, but at the same time, I mean, with Godzilla, we got, less than a quarter of the movie actually showing Godzilla?
Right, but that's how it should. But that goes back to the old school.
Yeah, it's the Jaws theory. I get that.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time,
I mean, if they weren't playing,
you gotta hope that they will show more in the future movies.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it just seems like if they're gonna go with the Jaws theory, they need to at least do what Jaws did with the parts of the story that they're gonna focus on.
Give us Jaws 4?
Oh dear God!
Oh no! Oh.
No, give us characters that we can actually care about when we aren't seeing the monster. You know, Jaws gave us characters that were actually mostly compelling.
Yeah.
Godzilla didn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the actors that they include in that movie. There wasn't a single actor in there that I could disagree with. They just gave them very little to work with. So if you're going to pull a Jaws theory with a monster movie, you need to give us something good to pay attention to when the monster's not on screen.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So, and that's where you can never really do the Jaws theory with the superhero movie. If you have a superhero movie, you need to show the frickin' superhero.
Yeah.
So you have to make the superhero compelling.
Right.
You can't just put a lot of flashy stuff on there and do the Zack Snyder thing and say, ooh, look at this. You have Superman. Ooh, it's the big S. Ooh, Batman. Yeah. Big explosions. Whoa. Yeah, you like it. And what did they say in the past 30 minutes? I don't know. There's a lot of grunting, but I don't know.
Shots fired at Zack Snyder there, man. Shots fired.
When you have so many other good superhero movies out there already, it's hard not to pay attention.
No, I don't disagree. Dude, the one that I have no hopes for is the Transformers universe, though. Like, that is going to be terrible.
No, but I think Transformers, because of how it survived already, is pretty much guaranteed to continue to be around, kind of like the classic horror movie franchises, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, where they'll put out 20 sequels. You'll have the devoted core fans that'll always go to it, but at the end of the day, it's a popcorn flick. You go because you don't really care about the story. You just want to see, you want to see the thing that is advertised. With Nightmare on Elm Street, you go to all the shitty sequels because you want to see Freddy. You go to all of the Friday the 13th sequels because you want to see Jason, and most of them you did. Transformers, you go because you want to see giant robots and big explosions. You don't go expecting some big story. It's just, that's not what they do. They've never been that.
It'd be nice to get some story at least, though.
I think the closest we got for that was the first. And, I mean, what are you going to do?
That wasn't good either.
It was the closest we had to a decent story. I said the closest. I didn't say it was, but it was the closest.
It was like, really?
Well, I mean, you had almost a good final draft. It was like maybe a decent second draft for the first one. Everything else was barely a first draft.
No, I don't.
And even then, some of those pieces, like of the second one and the third,
So bad.
Some of that just felt like
So
that
bad.
was the stuff that they were spitballing and ran out of time to come up with a better replacement.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is for these to be shared universes, for these to be connected, there has to be an overall story that will bring all of these characters together.
Yeah.
Marvel's doing it, DC's doing it, Legendary's doing it. If Universal decides to go through with it, that's the one that intrigues me the most.
Yeah. Because they can do a lot with it.
Well, not only that, dude, like, I would love to see, like, a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen style, like, running and gunning caper film with, like, a bunch of horror fucking classic characters, like, fighting evil. Like, that sounds like it could be super interesting. Like, that was almost like...
Wait, are we talking about the Legendary Monsters or the Universal Dark?
Universal.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
I was going to say, where's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen come in with Godzilla?
No, yeah, sorry, I flipped those. No, yeah, for Universal's, like, The Mummy and The Invisible Man.
Sure.
Like to see, like, a... kind of like a...
That's their Avengers. Sure.
Yeah, like, I would love to see that. I think that'd be cool. And that could also be, like...
Especially since the last League of Extraordinary Gentlemen attempt was a good idea, but bad execution.
Yeah, it had its moments. Yeah. But, like, also, like, that could be an action movie, but that could also be a horror movie.
Sure.
Like, the ability to kind of...
Yeah. Will they get to that point?
Yeah.
And that's really where you have to just...
So then I guess
we've seen one addition to that. Will they figure that out by the time to get around to the second one? Which I think the second one's supposed to be Dracula.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do they do that with, Twilight being the most recent vampire in everybody's collective minds?
Oh, God.
I don't know.
So then I guess the question is are people wanting this stuff enough?
Yeah. It comes down to our big question of this whole discussion. Are shared universes necessary? And is there really a benefit to having so many, or should it really be devoted to just the couple of things that we know we can get good stories out of, and the rest of it, just leave them at good standalone movies? What is the best way to go about that? And honestly, I don't know. If like you said, if they can get us good stories because of this cinematic universes, awesome. Yeah. But if not, I would be more happy with just some really good quality standalone movies than needing to push for collective universes. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough combined talent in Hollywood right now to give us that. Right. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying I don't know if the studios and the people that they're choosing to hire have enough talent to pull it off.
Yeah. So time's going to be what tells us, right?
I hope.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Oh, I hope so.
Cool. Well, I guess that's about it, right?
Yeah. Unless we just want to go back over all this again for, shits and giggles.
No, I'm cool.
Okay. Well, with that, this is Brad and Mike from Dallas Geek saying, see ya.